show. I'm Lolo Ganaika, and it's been a big week in pop culture, so let's dive in, shall we? With Thanksgiving upon us, I decided to compile a list of some of the showbiz blessings I'm most thankful for this year. First off, I'm thankful that there's a new Steven Spielberg film coming out, and it stars Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. The Post deals with sexism, journalism ethics, and political corruption, and now it feels like a really good time to tackle those ideas on the big screen. I can't imagine why. Also, I'm thankful that instead of talking to my extended family this Thanksgiving, I can binge watch Stranger Things Season 2. And if someone asks me a question I don't want to answer, I'll just drown them out with one of Winona Ryder's outbursts. And finally, I'm thankful that for the third holiday season in a row, we're getting a new Star Wars movie, and it looks like the Force will be with us for many more holidays to come. Last Jedi director Rian Johnson has just been handed the reins to a brand new series trilogy, which will arrive after Episode 9. Let's hope R2 sent a fruit basket to his agent. Speaking of The Last Jedi, this film's release is just a few weeks away, and there's big buzz around it, but the trailers aren't giving me much info. Luckily, EW's resident Star Wars expert Anthony Bresnikan is here to break down all we need to know before heading to the theater. Take a look.
Thank you, Lola. May the Force be with you. So for Star Wars fans, there is a whole lot to keep track of in The Last Jedi. You've got new characters, you've got new creatures, there are new planets. But fortunately, you don't have to worry about it because Entertainment Weekly has you covered. Here is our field guide to Episode 8. Let's start with the new characters. So one of the major new characters is Admiral Amilyn Holdo, played by Laura Dern. Not your typical military leader. She comes in to shake up the resistance, and she meets with a little resistance herself in the form of Poe Dameron, the X-Wing pilot, played by Oscar Isaac. Another major new character is Rose Tico, played by Kelly Marie Tran. She's a mechanic. She works in the background. She's not even a fighter with the resistance. And she's the one who ends up on a mission with the ex-Stormtrooper Finn, played by John Boyega. There is also a whole menagerie of new creatures and aliens making their first appearance in the Star Wars universe in The Last Jedi. Porgs! Every Star Wars fan is Porg crazy. We've gotten low doses of the Porgs right now, but imagine dozens of them, or scores of them, or hundreds of them. Porgs, 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 as far as the eye can see, starts to get a little scary. So the Crystal Foxes, they have an actual in-canon Star Wars name. One of these things is called the Vulptex, which much easier just to say Crystal Fox. In a critical scene, they will help maybe a hero, maybe a villain find their way through some of the caverns of Crate. And last but not least, we cannot forget the new locations that we'll explore in The Last Jedi. So far, we've seen a few of them in the trailers and at the end of The Force Awakens. Let's begin with Ahch-To. This place is the site in the Star Wars universe of the first Jedi Temple. It is where humans or aliens or whoever lived there first made a connection to the Force. Crate is another world that's brand new to the Star Wars galaxy, never before heard of, but it dates back, at least in the narrative, to before the events of the original trilogy. This base is where the rebels used to hide out, and it was never found, never destroyed by the Empire. But of course, in The Last Jedi, the First Order find out about it. They send their ATM-6s charging across the Salt Flats to destroy it. So we're sure to discover many, many new corners of the galaxy, many new places, many new creatures for years and years to come.
And we'll be right back with more show. Welcome back. I'm here with the director for new film Darkest Hours, Joe Wright. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very exciting to be here.
Thank you for being here. So Winston Churchill had quite the life. That is the understatement of the year. But your film focuses primarily on one of his darkest periods. It's when he first becomes prime minister and he has to fend off Hitler. What about this moment spoke to you?
Well, really, it's the pivotal moment of British and European and perhaps world history. It's the moment when Hitler is coming across Europe and seems to be unstoppable. And Winston is faced with the choice of whether to negotiate or stand firm. And luckily for us, he chose to stand firm.
And he is definitely a flawed character, and your film has no problem presenting him as such. There are moments when we see him in the bathroom, on the toilet. There are moments we see him drinking.
He also lies to the people at one point in the movie
does.
as well, which I find to be a kind of interesting challenge, an interesting problem for leadership, whether you kind of lie to people and make them feel safe, or whether you present the real stark truth to them.
Gary Oldman is a revelation in this film. Make the case for why he should win the Oscar for this role.
Oh, that's not for me to do. I mean, you know, the film and the performance speaks for itself. And I believe that, you know, I grew up in London in the 80s and 90s, and he was the Don, the man, the geezer, and you know, and he still is.
What did you find most enjoyable about working with him?
His collaboration, really. I mean, I think, you know, at first I was worried that maybe he'd just do his thing and I would arrange everything around him. And actually what I discovered, you know, working with him is that he wanted direction, he wanted collaboration. We became very, very close during the making of the movie. And it was probably the closest kind of creative collaboration I've ever had.
Take me back to that moment when you saw Gary in full Churchill.
Well, to be honest, it was a long process, and there were many iterations of the makeup. So it was about finding the sweet spot between looking like Churchill and still having access to his performance. But on the first day of rehearsals, we had the entire cast sat round a table for a read of the script, and Gary arrived in hair and makeup, and the entire cast just kind of stood up, and it was. There was a literal gasp as he walked in the room. It was kind of eerie. It was very eerie.
How do you think Churchill would have fared on Twitter?
I think he would have hated it. I think he would have absolutely, because he was very, you know, verbose and talked a lot. I mean, you know, if you had dinner with him, it would be an exercise in listening rather than a conversation. So I think he would have found the limited number of characters very difficult.
They've increased the number, but still, yeah,
no,
not
still
enough.
not. He wrote over 1 million words. I mean, 5 million words. He published more words than Shakespeare.
Thank you so much for being here, and Darkest Hour is in theaters now. Welcome back. Actor Jason Biggs stopped by recently to reflect on some of his past projects, and it's no mystery why he's winning bigly. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Jason Biggs. I've played a lot of fun roles over the years, and I'm going to tell you about some of them in a segment I call the Notorious B.I.G. GS. Camp Stories was an independent film that I did in 1995.
My name is Abraham Fishkoff, and I have a few tricks.
I was still in high school, and I had just gotten a car. I was living in New Jersey, and it was very exciting for me because I got to keep the per diem. Like, my mom said, okay, you can have that. I was like a stud when I went home. Oh man, I think I got my girl tickets to The Lion King. Play a what? American Pie was my first experience on a studio set.
What exactly does third base feel like? Like warm apple pie. Yeah?
That year and the year before had been kind of like the new wave of teen movies, teen comedies, that so many were coming out. And I was auditioning for all of them. The one I got happened to be American Pie. And it was weird, like, telling my friends about it back in Jersey. They're like, you did a movie where you what? You the what? I was like, yeah, man, it's really funny. They're like, okay, dude, sure. Loser was fun. It was kind of like a dream to be working with Amy Heckerling, who directed Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
So how come you always wear that hat?
Because something like 90% of your body heat escapes through your head.
I don't know if I got to. I feel like I did ask for the hat, actually. And I think I might have kept it, and it might be in storage. You know, in the movie theater lobbies, those big like stands of like the movie coming out with like a 3D of the actor. So they did one for Loser, and they sent me one. And I think I'm literally still paying for a storage unit just for this lobby stand. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Saving Silverman, it was nearly impossible to keep a straight face with Jack Black and Steve Zahn. I had the very daunting task of having to play the sort of straight man opposite these two comedic geniuses. I had to do a lot of stunts in that movie. One time I had my breast set on fire. In the movie, I put on this like zap machine where Steve Zahn is like zapping me, and then my shirt catches fire. It was like a big stunt I had to do, and I remember having so much fun doing that, because I love doing physical comedy, and I kind of pride myself on it. And I remember in that movie in particular, like Jack and Steve had all these big, great, funny things to do, and I was so excited when I got to do that scene, because it was a chance for me to do something kind of wacky. My best friend's girl is the reason I am married and have 2 kids.
I love the way you eat.
I got a call from a friend who represented the writer of My Best Friend's Girl. And he was like, hey man, I'm dating this girl and she's great and she's got a sister, Jenny. Jenny's actually auditioning for the movie as well. She's an actress and we should all go out. What do you think? Do you want to go out? And I was like, sure, man. You know, I just want to, whatever. I'm just having fun. But yeah, totally. You know, let's go for sushi. That'll be great. You know, whatever. And so it was a blind date with this girl who I ended up marrying 9 months later. And now we have 2 kids. Orange is the New Black was an amazing experience. Why would I want a felonious former lesbian wasp shiksa who's about to go to prison to marry me? Genji Kohan, the creator of the show, I am so grateful to her, because Genji is all about thinking outside the box and finding fresh faces or fresh uses of familiar faces, and I credit her for saying, you know, you're my guy, and I'm excited to see you do this. Those first 2 seasons on that show for me were just amazing. Angry Angel was awesome. You know, it's not your typical holiday movie. Heaven is right over there.
Heaven is clouds?
I am actually a 92-year-old Ukrainian man that has died and is sent back to Earth as an angel. Now, when you're sent back to Earth as an angel, you get to choose what mortal body you would like to inhabit. And I chose, obviously, the body of TV and film star Jason Biggs. And so I get to play this kind of funny, heightened version of myself. You know, we talk about how I did American Pie, and like, it's definitely Jason Biggs, but it's a bit of a caricature in a way. There were times that I had to remember that at the end of the day, I am actually a 92-year-old Ukrainian. So in fact, there's one scene where I'm eating head cheese, because that's what you do in Ukraine. I've done a lot of things in my career. I will say one of the most intense things I've ever actually had to do on set was eat head cheese. You can watch Angry Angel on Freeform.
Welcome back. I'm here with senior entertainment writer Clark Hollis. We recently spoke with Dan Stevens and Bharat Nalluri, the star and director of The Man Who Invented Christmas. Thanks for coming by, Clark.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Let's talk about A Christmas Carol.
Sure.
It's the definition of a classic. Why do we keep coming back to this film? Why can't we get enough of this film?
Well, it's just a great story that Dickens put together out of desperation, as The Man Who Invented Christmas shows. I mean, it's about Christmas, it's got ghosts, it's a redemption story, and it is, you know, in many ways, I mean, the reason it's so popular at Christmas is because it's the story that kind of set out the table for what Christmas is about.
All right, other than Christopher Plummer, your favorite Scrooge?
I love Bill Murray in Scrooge. I just think he's absolutely terrific, because he's kind of, in many ways, the most unpleasant, but he's so charmingly unpleasant, and I actually kind of almost don't like it when he turns at the end into a nice guy, but I will admit that I start crying pretty much as soon as that film starts and don't stop till the end.
Oh, Clark, smart and sensitive. That's a good combination. Without further humbuggery, here's Clark's interview with Dan Stevens and Bharat Nalluri.
You know, people know A Christmas Carol, this film is about. It's one of Dickens's many classics. Why was it so important to him?
He was in kind of a strange time when he wrote it. He was broke. He had writer's block, and he was a bit of a champagne socialist. He wanted to kind of change the world, even though he was enjoying his life. And so, you know, he was struggling. He had an internal struggle going on, I think, at the time.
He had a feud, didn't he?
He was a bit of a rock star. He was hitting his third bad album, and he needed to kind of get on and kind of break through, and Christmas Carol did all of that.
And Dan, you're an Englishman. You're a Brit, rather.
Is there a difference? Yes, there is a
Yes,
difference.
there is.
There is a massive difference now.
You're a Brit. I know you've cracked 1 or 2 books in your time. What was it like to play this iconic English novelist?
It was fun being able to sort of bring him gently down off a pedestal and dust him off and sort of look at the kind of man that he was, because I think growing up, certainly in England, the way that Dickens is taught, it's a sort of, you know, he's a grey, bearded old man, and everything he ever wrote was great. Go and read them. And that, to me, that's not interesting. It doesn't keep the stories alive, doesn't keep the literature alive. And this is a really very, very interesting man who was at turns very childish and silly and playful, and then deeply depressive and dark. And you have that woven into everything he wrote.
I mean, he was only 32 at this time.
Yeah, and you know, he was
Same age as me.
fiercely ambitious. 4 kids, 1 on the way, mounting debts.
One of the fascinating things about the film, which really surprised me, was that Christmas didn't even seem to be a big deal. You know, the point, I think Dan's character is asked, why are you writing a Christmas story? Who on earth would want to read that?
Yeah, at the time it was celebrated as a minor religious festival. It wasn't the sort of massive cultural event that it is now. And I think the film kind of answers an interesting and sort of timeless question. It's, you know, he was looking around and was deeply depressed by the society that he was seeing emerge, the sort of rise of rampant industrial capitalism. And instead of writing an angry pamphlet, which this could have been and sort of started out as, he took a much more abstract and therefore more universal approach to say, well, what can we do in these really, really bleak times? What's the piece of art that I can offer the world that is actually going to puncture this bubble that I'm so mad about? And, you know, with a background of sort of weird goblin short stories that he wrote. I didn't realise Dickens ever wrote goblin short stories, but he did.
They're my favourites.
Classics. But these were all kind of sharpenings of this character of Scrooge that emerged, and he'd been thinking about this for years, this sort of supernatural transformation of a truly awful character.
It's a time travel adventure. It's
Right.
a guy who goes back in time and revisits himself. Kind of a bit of a cliche now, but that was the first time it's ever been done. It's an extraordinary way to look at oneself. And I think that's what he did. He tricked you, didn't he? You kind of go in and you're really having fun and you're laughing and you're crying, and then you go, wait a minute, this is about something else.
And you got this terrific supporting cast: Christopher Plummer, Jonathan Pryce.
Yeah,
who
Christopher Plummer is a new actor.
Yeah,
I
I
think
remember his face.
he'll do well.
He'll do all right.
Did you give him any advice? Any acting tips?
That's right.
He's amazing. He turned 87 on our set, and yeah, has such a sparkle and a wit about him, and all of that is in his Scrooge.
Oh yeah, he's such a naughty boy, honestly. He really is, isn't he? He's got a little glint in his eye.
He does.
He was first on set. I'd come in, I'd wander around the set in the morning looking to work out my day, and I'd say, oh, it's
Was he hiding behind? Was he hiding behind a curtain?
Plummer loved Dickens' chair. He just wanted us to sit in Dan's chair all day, so he would just sit in the corner.
Yeah.
And finally, Dan, you did it earlier. How fun is it to say Fezziwig?
Fezziwig in a Plummer accent as
Yes,
well. That's
yes,
really,
yes.
really fun.
You can do it.
Well, watch the movie.
Folks, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
The Man Who Invented Christmas is in theaters everywhere now.
Welcome back. Leslie Grossman swung by recently to speak about her time on the popular series American Horror Story Cult, and she was so much fun, it's scary. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Leslie Grossman from American Horror Story Cult, and I'm going to tell you about my experience on that show in a segment called American Horror Story Stories.
Would you guys like some Crystal Light lemonade? I need to get out of the sun.
When Ryan lets you know that he would like for you to be in the next season of American Horror Story, you say, "Thank you so much. That sounds like a really good idea." Can you imagine if I was like, "I don't know, try to sell me on it, Ryan." Obviously, I didn't know what was going to happen in episodes that hadn't been written yet when I was first pitched the character. Did I know that she was going to end up committing a mass murder at a political rally? I did not. So that was as surprising for me as for the audience when I found that out initially.
We were besties in high school and we made a pact. If we weren't married by 35, we'd marry each other.
I had never worked with Billy Eichner before, and I was and am a huge fan of Billy on the Street, so I think I was a little too excited when I met him, and I think he was like, "That's great, nice to meet you. You need to calm it down a little bit. We're gonna be working together. You can settle it down." And Billy's also smart and funny and kind and super talented, which is everything you would want from your scene partner, and he was fantastic.
I'll crack under pressure. No. I won't be able to lie to the police. No.
It was my first time having a big girl sex scene, which I had never had before. When I first read that I was going to be doing that, I was like, "What? What's that now? What's that scene that you guys are telling me I'm going to be doing?" And I was super nervous about it and really freaked out. It ended up being not a big deal. My scene was with Evan Peters, who could not have been more lovely and professional. If the phone rings and they say, "We'd love for you to do another season of American Horror Story," I would be thrilled to be involved in it.
You're just being nice.
I'm not. You're incredible.
For more horror stories, watch the entire season of American Horror Story Cult now on FX.
Thanks, Leslie. That's our show. Thanks to all my guests. Don't forget to grab the Last Jedi issue of Entertainment Weekly on newsstands now and at EW.com. Bye.